right, pardon that interruption here. We are continuing on page 33. We're looking at the actions against licensees chart at the top of page 33. So we have disciplinary actions against pharmacy staff. On the left column it says actions such as probation, suspension, revocation, surrender, reinstatement, and then we have descriptions on the right hand side. So for probation, the description is that the license is restricted for a specified period of time. Suspension would be the license is actually inactivated. It may be reinstated after conditions are met. So for example, after a probationary period is completed. Then there's an action of revocation where the license is actually taken away by the licensing agency. Another action would be surrender. So the individual would agree to voluntarily give up their license, often under pressure in order to avoid penalties or charges. The last action, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is reinstatement. So this description is that maybe the license has expired or lapsed. Maybe they forgot to renew their license, for example, and then they were brought current with maybe CEs, and then the board allowed the license to be reinstated. I think this happened to one of my friends. Yeah, I think they were saying their license expired because they were living in like Panama, and they were a military pharmacist, and they were living in Panama with their wife and kids, and they weren't practicing. Obviously, they weren't living in the United States. So his license was expired, and then he got it reinstated when he moved back to the United States, I think a couple years ago. All right, so we're moving on page 33. So in most states, the Board of Pharmacy is responsible for initiating an action against a pharmacist, a pharmacy intern, or a pharmacy technician who may be deemed unfit to practice for a limited period or permanently. The board could delegate this authority to a specific division like the board's Quality Assurance Committee. There are some jurisdictions where this responsibility rests with another agency. The most common causes of disciplinary action are, it's saying here that the most common actions that are disciplined would be like drug theft and drug diversion. Other reasons for disciplinary action might include let's see. So yeah, we have a list here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 things. So perhaps there's unprofessional conduct on behalf of the pharmacy technicians as defined within the State Board of Pharmacy rules. So unprofessional conduct could get a license put on probation, suspended, revoked, or surrendered. So yeah, I think I've seen this happen before actually. I've heard about this with some of the pharm techs. There could be a violation of federal, state, or local pharmacy practice laws. There's a listing here that perhaps one of the techs was convicted of a felony. Maybe they falsified pharmacy documents, including those that were needed to obtain or renew their license. interfering or attempting to interfere with a licensing exam, assisting or allowing a non-licensed person to practice pharmacy, committing pharmacy, practice-related fraud. This could include affiliation with illegitimate internet pharmacies, illegally sharing protected health information like violations of HIPAA, failing to report any of the following information to the board. Perhaps the tech was involved in some type of a disciplinary action. This could be even with another state's board of pharmacy. So disciplinary action against the applicant or licensee by or surrendering of the license to another state's board, or pertinent information regarding other pharmacy staff who the licensee knows or suspects are unable to safely and competently practice pharmacy. Moving to page 34, so the board or the agency that's managing the disciplinary actions, they would have the final authority over the disciplinary proceedings, which can involve fines, action against the license, or both. So disciplinary actions against a license, this could even be a pharmacy business license or a personal license, could include, again, probation, suspension, revocation, surrender. This process will vary between states, but it often begins with a written notice to the licensee. Citing the disciplinary action that would be taken, as well as the reason for the action. The individual would then attend a hearing scheduled by the board where the final penalty would be determined. So in addition to professional sanctions, pharmacy staff members are also subject to prosecution by law enforcement if they are accused of committing any criminal acts, for example, theft or drug diversion. An individual whose license has been suspended or revoked can petition the board or the agency, the licensing agency to be reinstated in the future. And again, that may or may not be granted. In some cases, the board will grant reinstatement if the individual meets specific conditions, like they pass another exam or they completed extensive CE programs. We're moving on page 34. So we have a heading called Recovery Programs for Drug and Alcohol Abuse or Psychological Illness. So as we know, addiction, it is an occupational hazard in various occupations. So not even just pharmacy, right? There could be anesthesiologists or lawyers or different people of high stress jobs that abuse drugs. But we're just going to talk about what's available for the field of pharmacy. So as we know, addiction can be an occupational hazard across industries, but we're going to talk about what could happen with pharmacy personnel due to stress, easy access to medications, and the belief that their clinical knowledge might prevent this the personnel from developing dependence. Substance abuse among pharmacists, it can jeopardize it can jeopardize public opinion. It can contribute to errors, and it can also cause injury and death. Mental or physical illness may also compromise the ability of a pharmacist to practice safely. So if no serious offense has been committed, the goal of the board or other licensing agency is essentially to just assist the pharmacist or the pharmacy tech in obtaining treatment and then return to practice. So state rehabilitation programs are often available for all licensed healthcare professionals. They are generally for individuals with substance abuse disorders. But some of these state rehab programs, they will also assist those with other mental health diagnoses. The state board or the regulatory agencies, they will financially sponsor the programs. Typically, the only requirement for voluntary participation is a desire to seek help and maintain recovery. From a disciplinary perspective, enrollment may be mandated for a pharmacist who is maybe observed to be practicing under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So there's voluntary participation and there's enrollment that is actually mandated for pharmacy personnel, and that's from a disciplinary perspective. Leniency could be granted to a licensee who voluntarily self-enrolls in a recovery program. Pharmacy employees should report any coworkers who are known or suspected to be impaired or who are mentally or physically unfit to practice. The state board should be notified as soon as possible. And any disciplinary action so disciplinary action may be taken against a licensed pharmacy employee who fails to report or self-report in a timely fashion. Law enforcement should also be notified if any theft has occurred. The board may offer a path to treatment without license, probation, or suspension. And it would depend on the nature of the situation and if the licensee is a repeat offender. If there's any theft of controlled substances involved, the repercussions would be more severe and they would likely include a revocation of a license. All right, so we're moving to page 35. So we're going to go through, let's see, probably quite a bit of content that seems pretty obvious, but we're going to review it anyways. So page 35, opening, running, maintaining a pharmacy.